A dead man, a clown, or a fucking terrorist? Yeah, WWE had a terrorist at one point, who retired and became a principal. Vince McMahon was always full of wacky ideas, so let's go ahead and look at some insane pro wrestling gimmicks. And at number 15, we have Zeus. Zeus came from the movie No Holds Barred that starred Hulk Hogan, and that was pretty much the only reason they even brought him in. He was never a wrestler to begin with, and his career was very short-lived in the wrestling world. He did team up with the Macho Man to take on Hogan and Beefcake in a steel cage match. Literally a man just to feud with Hogan. At number 14, we have Heiden Ring, a schizophrenic man who loved to read poems. Oh, he also really loved Michael Cole as well. Yeah, you watched that whole thing, didn't you? Heidenreich's first opponent in the WWE was The Undertaker. He was a newbie. He had no clue what he was doing. But that's not to say he didn't have success, joining a tag team with the Road Warrior. But we'll never forget that Michael Cole segment. Number 13, the Goon. Yeah, this guy was a crazy gooner. He was supposed to be a crazed hockey player who lost his in-ring gear, so he just wore his hockey gear. He actually did have a match against The Undertaker, and that's pretty much it. The Goon was in and out of wrestling in a jiffy. At number 12, we have Isaac Yankham, the pure definition of when life gives you lemons. A crazed fucking dentist in the WWE, with teeth so bad a grill brush and Colgate couldn't fix. I do highly recommend this brush. This is actually the one I use for my everyday grilling. It's hard to believe that this man right here is Kane and he was just given a shitty gimmick. He was the King's dentist and the King brought him in to take care of his opponents. He actually did have a match against Bret Hart, kind of hard to believe, but I won't lie, his music gave everybody goosebumps. It was just a dental drill. So this man went from a shitty wrestling dentist to being a fake Diesel, and then finally becoming the big red machine that we know today. So you know what? Maybe there is hope. At number 11, we have Nails. This man really got the shit end of the stick. They introduced him as an escaped prisoner, so he can combat and rival the Big Boss Man. And then they had a nightstick on a pole match, and everything on a pole sucks in the WWE. Poles are only cool at nightclubs, huh? And that's it. Nails was done shortly after this. But the man actually did punch Vince McMahon square in the fucking face. So that's pretty badass. At number 10, we have Rosie. And Rosie is actually the lay brother of Roman Reigns. You can see the resemblance in their face. Before Rosie became that superhero character, he was a part of the 3-Minute Warning with Jamal, aka Umaga. And the tag team was actually pretty sick. These two moved like cruiserweights at 300 pounds. But then he got repackaged and they made him into the sidekick superhero with the Hurricane. Although a shitty gimmick, these two made it shine. They remind me of Bulk and Skull from the Power Rangers. Now, Rosie was a superhero in training, or SHIT for short, and this is one of the rare cases where a shitty gimmick was turned to gold. These guys grasped the gimmick by the balls and made it their own, becoming crowd favorites, and winning multiple championships throughout their careers. At number 10, we have the Yeti. Like, what the fuck? This thing looks nothing like a Yeti, and more like a mummy. The man behind the mask is Ron Reese, and he was just a very tall wrestler who was given this shit. He was a part of a faction that looked like they came straight from Spirit Halloween. Like, fuck me, they were literally just men in costumes. He also wrestled as a super giant ninja, and I'm not gonna lie, this one is pretty badass. Nothing like seeing a 7'3" ninja. The Yeti came out for one single match and gave Big Show and Hulk Hogan a bear hug. He didn't even fight in the match. And then they scrapped it. That's it. The man came out to interfere, gave them a hug, and the gimmick was thankfully scrapped. Number 9, we have Oz. If you're thinking a Wizard of Oz, you are correct. No, this isn't a fever dream. This is real, and they even had a real monkey with him. I don't even know if that's legal. The man behind this shitty gimmick is none other than Kevin Nash. What were they even thinking making him dressing up like a complete goof? He had one single match and then they scrapped it. Completely and thankfully. Oz is no more. At number 8, we have the Dicks. Oh yeah, Vince McMahon was in love with the Dicks. And probably still tosses and turns in bed wondering how they didn't get over. 2 Chippendale dancers in the WWE. Maybe this gimmick was ahead of its time because this would probably shine nowadays. They had a little segment with Heidenreich and the Road Warrior, and then the brothers were written off TV completely. I wish they were more popular. I'd love a main event WrestleMania match, Dick versus Dick. Who's the better Dick? Next on the list at number 7, we have the ECW Zombie. Do-Rag Vince was a menace, and when he brought back ECW in 2006, we got this shit-ass gimmick of the zombie. Vince was in love with all the spooky characters, and he really tried to push for a new one to make him as much money as The Undertaker has. So yeah, he brought out the zombie. And then the best part is this man's promo. Just listen. Sandman came out and beat the living shit out of the zombie. He was actually offended as this opponent was a surprise. Not at the zombie, but at Vince himself. At number 6, Santa Claus. I can see the vision now, The Rock and Stone Cold versus Santa Claus at WrestleMania. There's no way they thought this gimmick would work. He was Santa Claus's villain brother who stole presents from kids. Best part is, they actually did try to push him. He had some wins and even fought and beat up Owen Hart. He would later turn to Balls Mahoney and get a lot of fame in ECW. Fucking Santa Claus, who thinks of this shit? At number 5, Ferguson and Booger. At first he started off as a rogue monk who went mad, but then the gimmick had to be very quickly scrapped because the WWE managed to piss off the Catholic Church of New York. And rather than dealing with it, they just kind of understood that this gimmick was ass to begin with, and it wasn't worth all the trouble. And then they repackaged the man as Booger, the man who can't stop eating. No, literally, that's his gimmick. It was absolutely disgusting. He would actually go on to feud with Bam Bam Bigelow, but would end up losing and he would ruin all his momentum. And then he would go on to eat a bunch and make the fans very uncomfortable watching him. Wrestling Booger was probably not fun. At number 4, we have the Repo Man. And he was actually a Repo Man in real life before wrestling. So why not make that his gimmick? The only thing he really did that was really remotely exciting was stealing Macho Man Randy Savage's hat. Aside from that, the Repo Man didn't do much in wrestling. He did pitch the idea to become a superhero, but they weren't having it. They wrote him off TV. At number 3, Kerwin White. This gimmick was absolute shit. One of the most legendary names, the Guerrero family. Let's take one of them and make him a racist white man. All because the Mexicans beat the living shit out of him. He literally became racist after this incident. He even had a crazy pitch to Vince McMahon. Listen to this. I told Vince at the end of the day I want to come out in a white sheet. He was like, oh yes, I love it. Now, we never ended up doing that. It was too risky, a little too racist for a network. I wanted to, absolutely. I grew up in the time of wrestling where the more heat, the better. I wanted to find my way back to the dressing room every night. I wanted to have to sneak out the back window. I wanted to be in the streets and for people to yell, we hate you, because that's heat. If I was going to do it, I was going to do it 100%. Like I'd do anything. We never got to that point, but I was ready. I would have. Yeah, thankfully none of that shit happened right there. And at number 2, we have the Googer, a man in a rooster costume. That's it. They were hyping him up for a while, and then the man in the costume showed up. Now, the funny thing is, he still makes appearances to this day. Obviously not the same guy, but they do like dressing wrestlers up as the Googer to make appearances. It's kind of a living legend now. And finally, our number 1, we have 7. aka Goldust. Probably one of the best entrances in all of wrestling history. He literally levitated all the way down to the ring. But this man buried his own fucking gimmick. He was sick and tired of having to play by the rules, so he grabbed the mic and he really let them have it. Listen to his insane promo.
I want everybody in here to take a good long look at this crap I'm in. So I stand before you and, oh, my new name is 7, by the way, so they've dressed me up like Uncle Fester. You can take this silly looking thing 7 and shove it up your ass.
After this, he never wrestled. He came out with his dope ass entrance and decided fuck all. A gimmick so bad, he wouldn't even perform with it. Dustin Rhodes knew his worth.